Now, someone said you need to do skull crushers for the triceps, but in order to build good skull crushers, you need to be doing leg presses. Let me explain. In order for you to have well-developed quads, you need to do some kind of squat pattern. This can be a barbell back squat, this can be a leg press, this can be a hack squat, this can be a single leg lunge for all that I care. As long as you pick a squat pattern that allows you to generate high amounts of stability and force production through your quad, you're going to get good growth, right? I wouldn't recommend doing lunges. Walking lunges especially are super unstable and really hard to push close to failure. But if you pick something like a leg press, a hack squat, a barbell back squat, it does not matter to me. If you use a Smith machine, I could not care less as long as you're training close to failure in a stable environment. That's the first thing. The second thing is make sure that you're hitting every muscle group in your legs. Do not neglect your adductors and your abductors. These are also very important for full, well-developed legs. The inner thigh muscle is not part of your quad, it's part of your adductors. And if you're not training it, right, with that closing machine, that machine where you're doing this with your legs, you're not going to effectively hit the adductors well. And this is going to cause you to have, nice legs from the front, but nothing in the middle there. So make sure that you're training your abduction and adduction. Don't skip out on your calves. Do a stiff leg variation of a calf raise. You can do this seated on like a leg press, but as long as the knees are straight, or you could do this on a standing calf raise. I prefer the seated variation with my knees straight just because it doesn't load my spine. It's only loaded at the hips. I'm sitting down on the leg press and I'm just able to kind of push, right? So make sure you're training your calves, make sure you're training your glutes and hamstrings. If you're training for really big legs or trying to get really strong at your lower body movements like a squat or a deadlift, don't neglect your glute training. Glute training is the most slept on when it comes to being a male bodybuilder, or if you're doing just, want to have a good physique. Train your glutes. Everybody likes a good buns. And if you're not training your glutes, not only are you reducing the amount of force that your lower body can generate, because your glutes are one of the biggest muscles that help push your body forward, right? When you're walking, you're primarily walking with your glutes. Anyway, make sure you're doing a squat pattern and some kind of hip thrust if you want to really maximize your glute potential. You can also train them doing an RDL variation, so like a hinge, but this is primarily going to be spinal erectors and hamstrings if done correctly, but you can also train some glutes with that hinge as well. But just to simplify it, right, we need a squat pattern, we need some kind of abduction and adduction, we need a hinge for the hamstring, glutes, and spinal erectors. You also need a hamstring curl of some sort, right? And to top it all off, calves, as well as a quad extension variation. Now, the reason why we're doing quad extensions is because the rectus femoris, which is the hip, it's in charge of hip flexion and knee extension, right? It's the only muscle in the quad that helps with hip flexion. If you're not training this with a fixed hip position, you're not going to be able to train it because the muscle attaches at the hip and at the knee. You're not going to effectively hit it doing a squat pattern, right? Because the hip is moving and the knee is moving. So this video is getting way too long. I thought I was going to simplify this. Anyway, you get the point. Make sure that you're doing all of those exercises that I mentioned previously. If you want it all listed out, I'm going to go ahead and list them in the description below so you can take a look at that. And if you guys want one-on-one coaching, shoot me a DM. And yeah, I hope this helps.